Hello there, and welcome to my Lower review. Basically, Lower are these big class legendaries that every class is getting for the new Rastakhan's Rumble expansion, and each one's sort of a card that you want to be building an archetype around, sort of a central card to your deck that basically pulls everything together, is a big win condition in a lot of cases, or just generally a very powerful tool. So yeah, I'm going to look at all those cards, and at the end I'm going to give a bit of a ranking as to the ones I think are going to see a lot of play, the ones I think will see a little bit of play, and then the downright awful ones that won't see any play. So without further ado, let's go on with the review. Starting with Gonca the Raptor. So, big positive with Gonca the Raptor is he's actually looking to try and change archetypes a little bit, which I think is pretty cool. Again, Druid's always been a class that can attack, but it's not really been the sort of class known for its attacking. You look at classes that Rogue is the attack class. Rogue is the class that you use your hero power to trade in with minions. Druid's always had a bit of a funny hero power in that it's a little bit defensive, it's a little bit offensive, but neither of them are that great. What Druid does well is not really the hero power thing, which makes this a bit of an interesting card. He sort of completely redefines how you try and think about Druid. Again, there's been some pretty decent support cards this expansion. So there's a 0 mana gain 2 attack for this turn card, which is decent. There's a few ones that have been knocking about previously that see a bit of play. Savage Roar. I mean, after your hero attacks and kills a minion, it may attack again. I see this as like a board clear for Druid. The big thing Druid does really well is it can gain a ton of armor these days, so you can put yourself at a ridiculous health total and not have to worry about dying. And then just use your hero power to full clear the board and stabilise and then win the game from there. Again, gives some interesting synergies with like Hench Clan Fug, so potentially you can make something work there as well. I mean, these are the things you're thinking about. And there's the new 2-drop pirate that you get a 1/1 pirate every time you attack as well, which you can just fill the board. So again, it's just where do you play this card? Because you can't really build a deck around this idea. Support cards other than as I say, just buffing your hero and attacking in. So it might be difficult to make it viable because you sort of build a deck to try and make this card work, and then if you don't draw this card, you've sort of got a load of terrible attack buffs that aren't really that great. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, as I say, the positive with this one is it does try and shape new archetypes, which I think makes it a little bit interesting than some other ones. Some other ones you sort of think probably just slide straight into decks or probably don't slide in anywhere at all. So yeah, interesting card that might shape a new archetype, but it's going to be really, really tough. Next low we've got is Helazi, I want to call it, the Lynx. So battle cry, fill your hand with 1/1 Lynxes that have rush. So this is an interesting card because Hunter does not have a ton of card draw, so filling your hand with any sort of cards is usually a pretty valuable effect as a Hunter. Again, it's a bit of a value card. Hunter doesn't generally play the value game other than in Deathstalker Rexar, but the great thing about Deathstalker Rexar is you can pick the tool for the job. So if you desperately need a taunt minion, you can generally find a taunt minion. You want aggressive minions, you can either get stealth or rush or charge. So I give this a half a chance because again, filling your hand with 1/1s with rush, it acts as a ping for Hunter, which people have said previously, Hunter struggles to like tidily kill off minions. If it can deal a 1 damage flexibly, it's really, really powerful. Synergizes like Hunter's Mark, which is a really strong effect as well. You've got there's a 4-drop that gives you 1 cost minions poisonous. So, and there's Hunter Quest. So again, you don't have to look far to see applications for this card. We'll have to see. I mean, I'm not convinced this is the greatest of cards. You're probably going to see this more from, again, as I say, Deathstalker Rexar than you are from anywhere else. Because there'll be times when you're like, yeah, I will take a load of 1/1s. Create this as a little 6-drop or 7-drop and then play a few 1/1s and then play a few 1/1s. Just efficiently use your mana. A 1-mana 1/1 ping, basically, is really, really cool. So, again, we'll have to see. I'm not sure the archetype that makes this work, but it's a lot of value. It's not hugely expensive, which Hunter needs because Hunter struggles to play the really expensive cards. So it's probably okay. And I don't think it's much more than that. I've seen people talking about really interesting ideas, like you can do mountain giant things with this, where you get a mountain giant for 3 mana up back of filling your hand with this guy. So potentially that's a route you could go. As I say, the synergy with a poisonous 4-drop, whatever it's called, and synergy with quest, like just powers through quest single-handedly. So again, whether or not Quest Hunter gets anywhere near being viable, I properly doubt, but this guy's pretty cool in that deck. So, and again, any way you can turn your 1-drops into something more powerful than just a 1-drop makes this a really good card. But yeah, as it is, I think it's alright. I can't see where you'd play it as things stand, except doing interesting new things. But again, we'll have to see. Next we've got Janali, the Dragonhawk. Battlecry, if your hero power dealt 8 damage this game, summon Ragnaros the Fire Lord. So I did previously talk about how Hunters are going to be able to Deathstalker Rexar to get their own beastie legendary. It's probably worth mentioning. I probably should have mentioned it on the last card, but there's a lot of get random beast effects that Hunter has that potentially means it's getting cards like this randomly from effects, and does synergize really well with Hunter hero power. I mean, that's not my idea. I did nick that off of a preparing video I just happened to watch the other day. But so yeah, potentially this guy might be getting a little bit of play accidentally in Hunter as well, and being ridiculous if it does ever end up in a Hunter's hands. But I still think it's pretty powerful as a mage card, if I'm being honest, because even if you're just pinging 8 times, as a slower controlling mage deck, you're probably going to be able to make that work. Again, odd mage, double the damage of your hero power, so you're pinging 4 times. So easy to activate. Again, there's a ton of synergy cards to make this even more possible. I mean, where this shines is any deck that is running the Death Knight. So an elemental mage loves it. A odd mage definitely loves it. And if you're running the Death Knight in every slow mage deck ever, so Big Spell Mage probably loves it as well. I think you can chill on this a little bit, and because Ragnaros is such a strong card, and as I say, because it is so powerful with that hero power, with the Death Knight, heal for 8, and get a really scary threat that they've got to trade into, then full heals you basically. This comes down, and after your Death Knight, immediately you've stabilised. Whereas generally your Death Knight might take you 3 or 4 turns. If you go Death Knight 1 turn and then this next turn, it's all over. So, and again, you can set this up before you Death Knight. You play this turn 7, turn 8. They've got a big Ragnaros to try and deal with. You Death Knight, yes. So it's so powerful if you can get it to proc. And again, I think with very little effort, used a couple of synergy cards they've given you this expansion, you're going to be able to make it happen so consistently. So properly powerful, this card. And again, I do think it's going to see a lot of play in any sort of slower mage deck. Is there an aggressive ping mage deck that maybe runs this as a top end? I'm not ruling that out either, because again, the little bits of synergy they've given it, you're not going to have to work too hard to make this happen. The spirit with this, that basically spirit pings the minions next door to the minion you actually attack. So you play the spirit, you ping, you're 3 out of 8. You play, there's a 1-drop that gives you 2 extra damage on your hero power. Again, you're up to 3 of 8, so you're not working hard, and you're absolutely ploughing through this. So yeah, crazy powerful, and I think it sees play. Ragnaros got rotated to Hall of Fame because it were too strong as an 8-drop. So, and getting it as a 7-drop, and alongside that, getting a 4/4 body alongside it, probably good, probably a decent place to be. So I think this guy's very, very strong. So Chuvalo the Tiger, Divine Shield, Rush, Lifesteal, costs 1 less for each mana you've spent on spells this game. So first comparison is Ziliax. Ziliax is insane, but does have the added bonus of Taunt and doesn't cost 25 mana. So it's one of them cards that's probably very specific. You've got to be running a ton of spells, obviously. I think a slower Paladin archetype could very well happen. I've seen people talking about Holy Wrath Paladin that uses this. If you've got a slower Paladin deck, you're running Spike Ridge Steeds, which is 12 mana knocked off already. What other big spells are you liable to run? You're running Equalities, you're running Consecrates, so that already puts you at what? 6 for your Equality Consecrate, another 6 for your Equality Consecrate, again 12, another 12 for your Spike Ridge Steeds, up to 24. Again, if you end up having to play this for 5 or 6 mana, it's absolutely savage regardless. So, is there a couple more spells you're liable to run in that deck? Some sort of I mean, I quite like Shrink Ray, but I don't know if Shrink Ray is good enough when Sunkeeper Tareem's knocking about. I mean, potentially you want to lay on hands if it's a slower deck. There's scope for this to be very good. Again, it's how cheap can you make it consistently, and if you can make it cheap, then you're probably laughing. Love to see Holy Wrath come back, and I think you probably can make Holy Wrath work with this deck in a pretty easy way. The Paladin's got a ton of healing this expansion. This is another great healing tool in a slower deck regardless. Heal Paladin, Control Paladin, and if Combo Wombo Paladin comes around, we're all going to use this as a card. And Paladin does have some really solid control tools. As I say, a Quality Consecrate is going nowhere, proper powerful. Sunkeeper Tareem, while he's knocking about, can play defense, he protects the attack, but most of all, he ruins your opponent's day. I think this is really good. Again, certain archetypes love this card, certain archetypes can't make it work. But hopefully pushes slower Paladin archetypes. It's not going in odd Paladin. It's not going in even Paladin, obviously. So that's always my fear for these, is are they going to be good enough to dislodge Baku and Gen? Because Baku and Gen activate turn 1. This guy activates turn 10. So we'll have to see. I mean, Paladin does have a lot of good control tools, so I have to believe and I have to hope that Control Paladin ends up being a thing in some shape or form with a little cheeky Holy Wrath combo maybe thrown in. Next up, we've got Bwon Samdi. If I've said that right, I've had an absolute miracle. The Dead. So Battlecry, draw 1-cost minions from your deck until your hand is full. So struggle with this guy. Again, 1-cost minions is so specific. It does synergise with a Spirit card, as all the legendaries do, in that you Spirit shuffle 1-cost minions into your deck, basically. Whatever minion that dies shuffles a 1-cost copy of it into your deck. But you're never going to run enough 1-drops. I've seen people talk about running this with the 3-mana spell that buffs all your minions by 2 mana and then destroys 3 mana crystals. But again, it's going to be so hard to make this work. You've got to go so heavy with 1-drops. You look at the links for Hunter that does a similar sort of thing, but for 2 mana cheaper. And doesn't matter what your deck's made of. So I just don't see how this works. I think it's really going to struggle. Like, I can't get my head around how this possibly becomes good. So again, I might be massively surprised, but there you go. Can't see it happening at all. Next up, we've got Growl the Shark. Battlecry, eat a minion in your deck, and again, it starts Death Rattle, add it to your hand. So, a bit of an interesting card, this. I think, again, it does restrict your deck building a little bit, because 1-drops become your worst enemy. Traditional favourites of Rogue, like Firefly, are not what this card wants to see. So, but then the potential to high roll are absolutely insane. Like, if your deck's crammed to the rafters with 10 drops and you just get like a... You don't have to get... Let's say Baku, because Baku is running Rogue quite a lot. 7-8 stat line. Get it slammed on top of this, turn it into a 9-10 on turn 5. You don't care if your Baku gets silenced away from Growl, you're probably fine with that. So, I mean, that's the high roll potential. The low roll potential, as I say, is Firefly, which makes this a 3-4. But even then, even in the bad cases, it's got Death Rattle, draw a card, effectively. So, and if it's a low-cost card, it's going to be far more playable than a high-cost card. So, we'll have to see. I mean, as I say, I think it's got potential, and I don't think you're going to have to work too hard. It's like a Van Cleef without having to play multiple cards in a turn. But yeah, I think potentially this guy could be good. Because again, high roll potential is stupid. Low roll potential is still okay. But if you get the high roll, then it's prime for silencing. But if they haven't got it and can't deal with it, good times. If you low roll, they're never ever going to silence it. So you draw a card every time. So I think this has got potential, because a 5 mana 3/4 is about the worst this is ever going to get if you build your deck exactly how you're building rogue decks already. So with draw a card thrown in, which is not the worst thing I've ever seen, with the high roll potential. If you said one time you get Firefly, one time you get Baku, you'd say, do you know what? I'll probably have a go with this. But your average results are going to be somewhere in middle regions. You might get a Leroy on this, which turns it into a decent minion. You might get a SI agent, which makes it a decent minion with a decent death roll. So I think potentially, maybe it doesn't just slot into your standard decks, but maybe with a tiny bit of work, this is pretty solid. So cool card. And I like the text as well. Eat a minion. Very flavourful. First time we've seen eat a minion as opposed to... I don't know how else they'd worded it, to be honest. But yeah, interesting card. Possibly my favourite lower of the set, to be honest. Chuvalo the Frog. Battlecry, return all spells you played last turn to your hand. So we'll get the immediate quality plays out of the way first. Unstable Evolution, smash that in 5 times. Even on turn 5, play Mr. Frog, get 5 copies of Unstable Evolution. With that discussion's been had. That is definitely how it works. So, I mean, that's crazy value. And makes a standard version of Evolve Shaman a bit more consistent. We've still got the Death Knight helping out in that regard as well. So, pretty tasty. But how I'm really looking at this card is how good does it have to be? How many spells do you have to get for it to be worthwhile? And the answer is probably 1 or 2. If you get a third copy of Volcano, because you play Volcano like turn 7, turn 8, turn 9, slam Mr. Frog down the turn after, pretty happy with that. I think that's good enough. Because Volcano is such a ridiculously strong card. Hex, depending on the matchup, you can sort of pick and choose how you want to use your Kragwa. How do you want to get the third copy of Hex? Do you want to get the third copy of Volcano? Is it a board flood your deck? Is it a one big minion that needs to be hexed, but there's 3 copies of it or whatever? So it gives a lot of flexibility. But yeah, so I give this a lot of hope. Kragwa the Frog. As I said, I don't think you need to go stupid. I think a little bit of value makes it crazy good. I think Shudderwock absolutely loves this card. Again, the turn before you Shudderwock, what are you doing? Probably playing Shudderwock activators, to be honest. Playing your second Sirenoid, playing your Life Drinker. Let's say you go... Let's say you Volcano. I think by the time your opponent Shudderwocks, to be fair, you're generally dead. But we'll have to see. I think this guy's cool in the mid-game. In a Shudderwock deck, I think it's cool in the mid-game regardless. So... it fits pretty much everywhere except hyper-aggressive decks. But even then, you can go Bloodlust and then Kragwa afterwards. So... It's got so much flexibility, it's crazy. Next up, we've got Hearthstone the Bat. Now, I'm not a fan of this guy. 8 mana, 1/1, Battlecry, fill your board with copies of this minion. So let's play the game of how good does this have to be good? So how many times do you have to buff it for you to even care? At 1/1s, 8 mana, 7/7, spread over a reload of 1/1s. You can get better effects than that with like a Nixia. So... which again, I think Nixia is 9 mana, so... and you get a big cheeky 8/8 middle of all your 1/1s. Again, you've got Calamos is an 8-drop. Fill your board with 1/1s and a big minion. Again, in middle at board, assuming you played an Elemental last turn. Not convinced. Not convinced that's good enough. At 2/2... 14/14 a stats, dies to consecrate, dies to all sorts. Pretty disappointing. 3/3 crap, 4/4 crap, 5/5 is where you need to get this to, which is double Soul Infusion, long shot of the day. It's double, yeah. So you've got double Soul Infusion, which you maybe met work. You've got Keleseth, double Soul Infusion, get this up to a 5/5. There's just better cards and better effects. Like Sirenoid comes down on 4, you get a couple of decent sized minions. Again, you get extra bonuses from your buffs. Seen people talking about Omega Agent that's like a 10-drop that you get 4/5 and then another 4/5 and another 4/5. If you buff that a few times, you can take more advantage of it. But again, it's a 5-drop that you have to play on 10, but its upside is disgustingly better. Or is it a 6-drop that you... but anyway. Either way, I just think Hearthstone's going to be so hard to get the value from. So... and like buffing feels zooey. I just don't believe. Maybe you try and make doppelgangster if things work. There is a 4 mana 2/3 that they've added in this set. Buff your minions +1/+1, which used to be a paladin only paladin, hunter, and warrior mechanic, but predominantly paladin. So they're starting to spread the buff love with other classes now having access to it, but you just got to work so hard for this to be good, and you can't just run crappy dead cards that you have to work so hard to make better. That's not how Hearthstone works. But yeah, so don't hold out a lot of hope for this card. There's cards that do what this is trying to do better, cards that do it cheaper. Where do you put this card? Don't know. Don't know how you make it work. Again, it's big rivals like Doppelgangster or whatever, which again's not in standard anymore. But like, you look at a Doppelgangster at 2/2 for 5. So again, they come down a lot faster. They have a quicker impact. You're not working as hard to make them good. You've got better synergies in those classes to make things work. You put Doppelgangster in Paladin and buff like with 10 different cards in your deck. So 1 star, yeah, probably is 1 star. It could be my worst lower of the set. Last one, this guy I properly like is Akali the Rhino. 8 mana 5/5 rush overkill. Draw a rush minion from your deck. Give it +5/+5. Now the big problem I've got is every time I see overkill, I go, oh, this is proccing 100% of the time. Look at this really great effects. At 5/5, it's got a decent chance of proccing. There's a lot of things you can kill at 4 health or less. So you probably are getting the effect, which makes it like an 8 mana 10/10 because you're getting a 5/5 minion and you're drawing a rush minion. So it's a huge amount of tempo because you've got a big rush minion getting you another big rush minion, that both of which can trade in and kill stuff off, both of which potentially can ride out till next turn and make stuff happen that way. This is the one time when I am properly going to link to the Spirit card, because Spirit of the Rhino synergizes so well with this, it's unreal. Like, first of all, it's 1 mana. So the 1 mana Spirit of the Rhino, your rush minions are immune the turn they're summoned. So you slam your Spirit of the Rhino down, Akali gets his first trade in for free. As I say, you've still got a 5/5 on board. The next minion comes in, slams down, is huge, trades in, keeps its full health. Again, there's another legendary in the set as well that summons a minion from your hand, so potentially you can get free rush minions on board, all attacking in, all doing absolute scenes. Again, I'm overall not it works out like that, but 3 big minions in 1 turn, so could be really, really good. I think Warrior's looking like it might be able to do a mid-rangey, tempo-y style deck. We're now reaching a level where rush is actually probably a strong enough mechanic, i.e. there's enough good rush minions to make it work, certainly in Warrior. I think the 3/3 for 3 is good enough. I think the 1 mana 1/2 draw a rush minion from your deck's good enough. Ziliax, we've mentioned before, is absolutely spicy as. Let's say you get Darius, let's say you get Ziliax, you get a huge Ziliax, you heal for 1,000,000 health in a tempo deck, so you might have used your weapons to trade in your face. You're probably running Sulfurus, which is that 6 mana 4/4 weapon. Overkill, attack again. Overkill always procs, because that's how overkill works in my head. But so again, you eat loads of damage with your Sulfurus or whatever it's got. I think I've slightly messed the name up there. And then you get your big Ziliax on the back of Akali the Rhino. Your Ziliax heals you for 8 health. Times are good. So yeah, I like Akali, and I think Akali may or may not see play. It's okay, is where I put Akali. I hope Rush Warrior becomes a thing, and if it does, this guy is stupid. And I love the fact that it's so much tempo. So maybe it pushes Rush over the edge. So just to wrap up then, I've sort of put the lower into tiers. We've got Cragwell the Frog as top tier. We've got Janelle the Dragonhawk as top tier as well. Because both of these cards, I think, with very little work, will fit into existing archetypes. I think Cragwell's just solid wherever you want to put him. Again, you don't need to get ridiculous amount of spells for him to be good. I think Janelle even is also pretty good, because again, Odd Mage is sort of on the fringe of being a deck. It's never been strong, but it's always been there or thereabouts. Again, Big Spell Mage, I think, probably can ping 8 times before you need to play this guy. Anywhere where basically you're doing the elementally thing with Frostling's Jaina, Ragnos is quality in that package. Again, if you're running a slower game plan, you're going to get the number of pings in necessary. So I think both of these cards with very little work end up being playable in a wide variety of decks. Chuvalo the Tiger, a little bit of a tricky one, because again, doesn't fit into any existing decks really. We're not really running a lot of control-y Paladin lists, but if a slower controller paladin does end up happening that's running a fair amount of spells, which I feel like it would, then this card's really, really strong. So that's why it's tier 2, because I think with very little work, the pieces are all there, and I think you could have run control paladin if you really wanted to. In the last couple of expansions, you just chose not to because there's stronger archetypes in paladin of odd and even, but the amount of healing synergy, the amount of spell synergy that they've got this expansion, I think slower paladin archetypes are probably going to work out, which is why I put it as tier 2. Then you got tier 3, which is like need a little bit of work to be good, which is like Akali the Rhino, you've got Halazi the Lynx, and you've got Growl the Shark. So again, I think all have potential to see play. I think Akali, if a rushy warrior happens, which a rushy warrior might happen, like a mid-range style warrior deck, then again I think Akali's really strong in that list. It's not good enough to go in a faster list, that's a problem, and in slower lists I don't think the tempo really matters. So it's sort of in quite a narrow field of where it might be good. The Lynx, again, it's quite powerful effects. Getting a handful of 1/1s as a hunter that all got rush, so you can ping them in, as I say. But again, I don't see the deck that has time to make use of all those pings sort of thing. Because generally, hunters are trying to close games out faster than that. Again, maybe it goes into like a Death Rattle hunter, because then pings might be flexible while you set up your Death Rattle turns. Possibly, that makes sense there. So yeah, again, a little bit of thought. I can see how that maybe would work out, but as things stand, I'm not sure Hunter cares that it's got a really high value, longer game card. And Growl the Shark, the problem he's got is it sort of stops you running 1-drops, and Rogue pretty much always wants to run 1-drops. Firefly is so strong in Rogue, but Firefly from Growl is tragic. So again, the high roll potential of this in a deck where you're running like 3-drops plus is stupidly good. But again, that deck doesn't really exist. You've got to run your 1-drops. If you can get your 1-drops down to like quite a low level of like 4 1-drops, and Fungal Mancer for some reason stops seeing play, then maybe it's good. But it's going to be tough for it, because you don't want to run the early game stuff, and every Rogue deck pretty much does want to run the early game stuff, or doesn't care about the value, well, the cheaty mana tempo this guy can give you. So, and then finally we've got bottom tier, which is cards that I'm working really hard to try and see where you'd put these into. Again, Rosamde the Dead is pretty tragic. Drawing 1-drops, what are you drawing 1-drops for? Can't see how that affect's ever good. Harik the Bat, you've got to work so hard for this to be a good card, while taking buffs away from your other cards that actually deserve buffs a bit more. Gonca the Raptor, again, you've got to build your deck around making this guy good. The only way this guy sneaks up a couple of tiers is if purely the hero power from the Death Knight is enough to make it viable, but you're relying on 2 cards lining up in your deck together, otherwise it's just trash. So the fact all 3 of the bottom tier ones require a lot of work to make a deck that appreciates them, and then when you do get the decks to appreciate them, the effect does not even feel that good. So that's where my head's at. Thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll have some more YouTube content for you sometime soon. See you later.